Saddle up your horses.
What's going on, everybody? It is another episode of the Mainly Broncos podcast, and we are riding high. We are riding high. We are riding a mile high. That's probably the best way to say it. So the vibes are immaculate. Specifically with at least one person, in the stream. But nonetheless, the vibes are immaculate. Thank you guys for upping in. First things first, make sure you hit the subscribe button for the MHRT Network page. Also, we are doing a subscribe feature. It's called like join. So make sure when you click that join button, you can choose whichever option is best suited for you, which there is a $2.99 a month, $6.99 a month, and then a $12.99 a month. Obviously, the $12.99 a month is the premium subscription. Again, feel free to subscribe however it is that you feel necessary. We also do the Mainly Broncos YouTube channel. I will say it's probably mostly popular now at this point for the short form that we do over there on Mainly. We do more of that short form that is quite popular now over on TikTok and Instagram. So make sure you get a chance to follow that and everything else. Obviously, as you could tell, due to New Year's Eve being on that Wednesday, we could not record on Wednesday because we were going to enjoy the time with family and obviously New Year's. And of course, make sure you follow the boys, support the boys. Brandon is not here tonight. He's recovering from a bit of a sickness that's kind of been going around. Obviously, I was recovering a bit from a flu too. I'm sure Jordan was dealing with something down there over on the East Coast with Florida. But no, make sure you follow the boys. Follow Brandon at Brandon Miller PO. Follow Jordan at Jordan 2 Lopez. Follow myself at Keenan Parker PO. And of course, the Mainly Broncos at Mainly Broncos. Jordan, I want to send it off to you, obviously. As I said, the vibes are quite immaculate in the Lopez household. So talk me through it. First, of course, not Broncos related, but of course, I want at least a couple minutes of your time so you could talk about the vibes of the Miami Hurricanes advancing.
Yes, sir, baby. That was a game where you kind of try to play it out in your head how it can go. That first half was tremendous. The vibes were off the charts, but I really still wasn't comfortable with the 14-point lead, knowing that Ohio State was going to, come back and give us their best punch, which they did to come out the second half. But then there was a few plays made by Carson Beck where it was a must-have-it type situation, and he made the play, whether it was him lowering his shoulder, getting that first down on 3rd and 10, big running plays. I mean, you name it. That defense for UM is something special. I mean, Ruben Bain and Hakeem Mesidor, if they're not first-round picks, I don't know what we're doing in this draft class, but that game was fantastic on all fronts, at least for me. I know a lot of Ohio State people are a bit upset, but this was a long, long time coming. So super happy that how it transpired, how it went. And it is one of the best feelings knowing that when your team just has a very dominant offensive and defensive line. It's one of the best feelings ever.
I think it's one of those things too, because and for correlation's sake, if you will, it's one where you kind of talk about it and you kind of go through the different parts of the season from even just the Broncos side of things, and you're asking yourself, what's the levels of a successful season? Like, what's the levels of a successful season, right? And we've had the conversation, just overall about where this Broncos season has been, and everything. And because, I have to imagine for the Hurricanes, obviously winning the national championship for the college football playoff is sky high, right? Sky high as far as what that would feel like for the Broncos. But I think that knowing the fact that they've advanced this far, knowing all the circumstances surrounding Miami and whether they should have been in or not been in, and then for them to advance to the semifinals has got to at least feel good for them. And then you correlate that to the Broncos. To tie that in, Jordan, we were at the point, I shouldn't say we, but I should say when I say we, I mean the whole Bronco fan base. When we were kind of saying we were almost like a successful season is if you can be able to get home field or have a home playoff game, right? Just a home playoff game. That's at least the next step in this process of the trajectory of this team. They took 3 steps forward, 4 steps forward, and are on the cusp of something very special, which is a number 1 seed, in the AFC. So it's one of those things like this season's already surpassed, I'd imagine, multiple people's expectations. Obviously, if they come away with the Super Bowl, that is the biggest victory of them all. It's the cherry on tops. But you kind of have to put into perspective and kind of take a step back a little bit and really relish in the fact about how special the season for not just your Hurricanes, but as the Broncos as well.
Yeah, my football teams, let's just say, have been having tremendous years. Transitioning it to the Broncos side, I know a lot of people have had their thoughts. What's up, Trav? I know a lot of people have had their thoughts about Sean Payton, especially with the things he has said. But he's been right on about everything, and he laid out the goals heading into the season. And a lot of people, criticized it one way or the other because obviously there were really, really big goals. But obviously the first one was winning the division, which, people had us winning the division this year, but not everybody, obviously, because of the Chiefs.
Who of this panel had the? It wasn't me. Who in this panel, Jordan? I had the Broncos winning the division.
I had the Broncos winning the division, and then that was his first goal, right? He said first goal is to win the division, and then he said the second goal is to get the 1 seed. And right now, all we have to do, this is the best part about Sunday, we control our own destiny. We just got to win, and we're the 1 seed. If that happens, the second goal is accomplished. And then obviously the third goal is to win it all. And it just gives you so much confidence when a coach like that lays it out for you. And then you see it coming to fruition. And as you see it playing out and mapping out, it just has to, your confidence just has to keep on rising and rising and rising because he literally is just telling you how it's going to be. So I can only imagine how it is in the locker room with their confidence, knowing damn, this guy has been telling us how it's going to be the whole time, and we've been doing it just like how he said. For the fan base, it should be just the same. He told us publicly the 3 goals. We accomplished one of them, which a lot of people were, skeptical of that happening just because, the division has been taken over for the past decade, but that was accomplished. And then now to be the number 1 seed in the AFC and have a bye week and have the playoffs run through Denver, it's special. It really is.
Yeah, it's something where the NFL is the ultimate scriptwriter, right? But to what it is that you're talking about, Sean Payton is like the ultimate scriptwriter for what has transpired ever since you step foot, in the building. And I think it's we can maybe criticize at times like certain play calls and certain times where he gets a bit greedy on some things, but all in all, it really shows you how much belief he has with this team and going forward, how much fun, he is even having with the team. And I just think that when you look just solely with where things are for this organization, it really shouldn't surprise anyone from the Sean Payton perspective, right? Because how many Saints players, former Saints players, or current Saints players have talked about the idea that when Sean Payton is this way and he's instilling a lot of this belief into an organization and it's backed up, you want to die for the guy. At that point, I mean, you want to always die for the guy next to you ever in any sporting sort of environment, right? Like you always want to, fight for the guy that's always next to you. But when you have a head coach that is willing to do the dirty work, and provide the true X's and O's of the sense of it may be a little bit more on the old school variety, but yet it's still coming to fruition. Yeah. I think it's very impressive to see what Sean Payton has. And obviously I don't want to dabble too much because it's and the whole coach of the year stuff, because it's frustrating when you don't see him in the conversation on some national pundits. But it goes to show you, for some reason, people just cannot wrap them heads around, if you will, this whole coach of the year title for a guy like Sean Payton, who is an old school coach, which I find very funny because they sure didn't have that conversation when it came to Andy Reid, So, like I said, I don't want to make it too much in terms of the coach of the year conversation, but it is very impressive when you think of just from day one what has all been accomplished.
And it's also very contradicting at the same time, because the same people that say that Sean Payton shouldn't be in the coach of the year conversation are the same exact people to say that Bo Nix is not good at all. So if Bo Nix is not that good, then Sean Payton must be doing a hell of a job, right?
Yeah.
I mean, oh no, but the defense is really good. Well, guess who constructed the defense, by the way?
Yeah, because on the flip side, it's the Drew Brees argument, right? All those years, Drew Brees was the one who carried Sean Payton. Because to that point, it just means that Bo Nix is the one who's carrying, Sean Payton. When in reality, it's all of the parties together at that point. And but there's just a few things where you really boil it down. I think Jack Ramsey, one of the writers over at Predominantly Orange, mentioned it. What was it, about a couple weeks ago, about it? And really, like, there's just two of the big things, I should say, where it just really triggers that Sean Payton should be the coach of the year. He probably won't be, but he should be the coach of the year, just from the precedent he set of moving on from Russell Wilson, having the $85 to $88 million dead cap hit that they had, right?
Yep.
And then hitting on that quarterback when it came to be Bo Nix, who happened to be everybody's most hated quarterback, in that entire draft class. And he was arrogant enough to select that player at the 12th overall selection, the sixth quarterback taken, and he turns him in on a trajectory of possibly a top 10 and top 5 quarterback in year 3. So it's just that alone is the two main reasons why Sean Payton should at the very least be a top 3 candidate for coach of the year.
Yep. It just seems like coach of the year now is more of a award for first year head coach. Not first year, but being at the team for the first year, because obviously Mike Vrabel is not a first year head coach, but being his first stint with the New England Patriots. So it's for first stint guys being at their new teams. It's more so an award for them, because if you change around that team, more likely than not, you're going to be in the conversation and most likely being leading that conversation. So we see with Vrabel, Ben Johnson, and there's a lot more, Liam Cohen, which, by the way, all 3 of them have done a tremendous job. No one's saying they're not.
Yeah.
It's just when you're the number 1 overall team in the NFL with the best record, and stuff like that, it's not by luck.
And what were they saying about Vrabel? Because the Patriots were on a trajectory for that number 1 overall seed. What were they saying about Vrabel? Vrabel is the coach of the year.
Yep.
Right? Well, now the Broncos are the number 1 overall seed. And what's the conversation? Oh, Mike Vrabel's still the coach of the year. There's no doubt. So it goes to show you just how much of a bit of a different vibe. And I again, not to live so much in the past on this, but it also goes to show you how much of that Bountygate year really pissed off a lot of people, either in the media or maybe even some players to a degree, in that Sean Payton era, to where they've completely turned off this idea about who Sean Payton is as a person, and who he is as a coach. And so because of that, they let their own biases, which is something being a journalism major you should never do, that they let their own biases dictate their own takes and opinions, if you will, for how that coach of the year should be.
Yep.
Okay, so Joey Collin, we can kind of get into it here a little bit, because a lot has happened, Jordan. We didn't record last week due to the fact that Christmas was on. All the simple fact that the Broncos had their game, was it a week ago, and then they had the Christmas Day game with the Kansas City Chiefs. So Joey Collin asks about the run game of late. I will say, with the absence of J.K. Dobbins, we were kind of curious about what's going to transpire with the loss of J.K. I have to give credit where credit is due, and do I think that Jaleel is on that RJ Harvey level? No, but I really have to give a lot of credit to both RJ Harvey and Jaleel for keeping both of them afloat in that running game, because they are doing a bang-up job when it comes to the running game of late.
And I don't think it was a coincidence. I mean, again, I don't like that his opportunity came off of an injury, but last game, the running game, I thought looked good. And I think a big part of that was due to the new addition at center, Alex Forsyth, who I've been clamoring about to have his opportunity made. And again, it sucks that it's happening due to an injury. I mean, I hope Luke Wallenberg gets back as soon as possible. I already know he's been put on the IR, which is unfortunate, but this
he was on the side field, if you will. I want to say it was today or something. He was on the side, so progress, but yeah.
But and with that being said, maybe this opportunity for Forsyth can open up a lot of eyes there in that building, right? I know we just gave him an extension, and we had that conversation earlier in the week in our Slack channel.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the run game, I think, is going to keep improving. And RJ Hart, I know a lot of people were mad that we didn't get Travion Henderson and maybe some other guys.
You and me both.
I will say RJ Harvey has been more than advertised.
Yeah,
I thought he's been great. Even taking over the lead back role when J.K. Dobbins is out, I thought he's been tremendous in terms of catching the ball out of the backfield and even improving his vision in the run game. So even when we first got him, right, in the preseason, he wanted to bounce everything outside. And how can you blame him? I mean, he's so good at doing it. But sometimes you have to get in between the tackles, right? And he's been getting better and better, it seems like, each week at doing that. So he's improving each week. And listen, another conversation that should be had, I don't know, maybe if you're a rookie and you lead all rookies in total touchdowns, maybe you should be in the conversation as well. I mean, to be honest, RJ Harvey has been one of the more key pieces on this team that we've had. And I don't want to say it's been unspoken, but I don't think it's, being in the forefront of importance, because if it was for RJ Harvey, this team would be struggling a lot. I mean, between his ability to catch out of the backfield and some of his rushing attacks, I mean, this team would be in trouble. But, Sean Payton is the running back whisperer for a reason. So
yeah, well, and I gotta say, because I made the point to you, and actually I even made it to the point, in the chat, was RJ Harvey's like the second best option, at least at this point, for just the receiver game, but maybe even just weapon. He's the second best weapon on this team, right after Courtland Sutton. And I would say that's a pretty big development, if you will, because it goes to show you that, yeah, I think that we've seen some highs and some lows with Evan Ingram. And, he did post the Joker gift when he was signed. But we all know that when Sean Payton came here, he did mention to us and warn, I shouldn't say warn us, but he previewed it, that the sense that you can have two Jokers on the team, and it's not necessarily wide receiver. That's what he said. He said it's not necessarily wide receiver. it is running back and it is running back and it is mostly tight end. And RJ Harvey, for that sake, has really turned in a really impressive season. And I think if there's a few things you could say about him, the vision still seems a bit inconsistent, but it's just his first season. But you do see a lot of the glimpses where he hits a hole and you can see that really quick burst to get like a 6 to 8 yard gain pretty regularly, sometimes on 1st and 10. But where you really see the like almost the elite vision at times with Harvey is the red zone. It's like a different animal when it comes to the red zone for him. Like it's almost like you're looking at a little bit more of an explosive version of Jamal Williams with the Saints, in the sense of just how versatile and explosive he is, in that red zone. He's a different animal. And I will say one of the biggest pros to his draft profile coming out was contact balance.
Yes.
RJ Harvey's contact balance has been so impressive. And frankly, one of the things that has made even Javonte Williams so special pre-injury was that contact balance. And so like when you have that ability to be that good at contact balance, at least early on, that should at least serve you pretty well going forward. But he's been pretty solid, all things considered, despite some of the vision issues at times.
No, yeah, I agree with everything you said. I mean, RJ Harvey, especially with this contact balance, there was a specific play in the Chiefs game. I forgot which quarter it was, but it showcased his contact balance to like the T. So
I want to ask you this, because do I think there's a legit argument, like a legit firm argument of it? I don't know. I will say I'm at least monitoring the situation with RJ Harvey because of how well he's playing, that there is a chance that the Broncos say bring JK back, but because of how RJ has been performing, are we seeing a bit of a change of guard when it comes to run back one in Denver? Like that's something at least. Just your quick thoughts on that, because like that is something I'm at least monitoring for the time being because of how well he's played. In this stretch, am I going to say no to guys like Breece Hall and and whatnot? Jordan, no, but it's just kind of something I'm monitoring a little bit.
I think there is a change in the guard, and I hate to say it because JK was so good before he got hurt. I mean, he was a top 5 rusher in the league. But it's what RJ has shown us week in and week out has been just so impressive in terms of just finding a way into the end zone every single time. That was like the one thing that, and it's I don't know why, and maybe I need to look into it more. But J.K. Dobbins had the rushing yards. He didn't have necessarily the touchdowns. It was more RJ even back then. RJ Harvey's doing it all right now. So I think right now it's a changing of the guard a bit. But with that being said, it does not mean that J.K. Dobbins was not.
Yeah, exactly.
At all. I mean, because that guy was a monster for us. Now, that's hypothetically, if the Broncos do go all the way to the Super Bowl and J.K. does come back, like RJ Harvey should be getting the majority of the snaps. Like, I don't think we would put J.K. in a spot where that is most likely going to be his first game back. It's the last game of the season. Are you going to give him 60% of the snaps and only RJ Harvey 40, or are you going to switch that around?
Right. So, yeah, and maybe that's an article for you, over there at PO. Because it's just something I'm kind of briefly monitoring. Before we dive a little bit more into the game, I want to know your thoughts, because Kodiak mentions, are there any hurricanes that are piquing your eye? Obviously, we know one. He can't graduate. He can't come out of the and be a player as of late. But Malachi Toti would probably be number one on that list
Yes.
for Jordan. But yeah.
Yeah, I would draft the rights to Malachi Tony right now if I could. I would say Mark Fletcher, but he is going back for another year at Miami, which is awesome for me. I think he is a perfect running back. And again, maybe I'm just biased, but 6'1", and he's just a beast. But we've seen the Broncos, especially this past year, take the best player available. And I don't think this player is going to drop that much. But if the conversations continue about him having short arms, because that is a big deal now all of a sudden, and he drops a bit, I wouldn't be opposed to getting Ruben Bain because that guy is a freak of nature. But again, I don't see him dropping whatsoever. So I think Ruben Bain is going to be out of our realm of possibility. It's funny because we just drafted a corner, but the nickel out of Miami, Keontae Scott, he should have been the Jim Thorpe Award winner.
Mm-hmm.
He is an absolute beast. He just had the pick six yesterday. Everybody's finally starting to give him his flowers, but he's been a dog all season. And then another guy I would say, this guy's a safety. I know I'm saying more defensive players than offensive players right now, but guy's a safety, Jacoby Thomas. He would be one that I would love to be in that safety room, just because, again, I know some people say we lack depth in that position room. If we can get a young stud in there just to learn from guys like Hufanga and Brandon Jones just for a year or two, I mean, that'd do wonders. But offensively, it'd be awesome if we can draft a Francis Mayanoa. But I don't think he's going to drop that much either for us. But there is a left tackle that we have, Markel Bell. He is 6'9", and he's like 350. And I know we have Garrett Bowles, but if we can maybe, flip Markel Bell to a right tackle, maybe, round 4, draft him and kind of develop him, I wouldn't be opposed to that either.
Yeah. It's going to be a fun thing. For anybody that doesn't know, I'll be at the Senior Bowl for at least a couple days. So I'm sure Jordan will be on my ear for some of those Miami players, if you will.
And I was at the Orange Bowl today, by the way. And let me tell you what, I may or may not have seen a future Bronco with my eyes, which, they were giving these out at the Orange Bowl today. Pretty nice. And I'll say that Kenyon Sadiq fella from Oregon, he's pretty good.
Yeah. The Broncos might have to do some, moving around, moving up in regards to, some Kenyon Sadiq, but it's
pretty good.
He's pretty good. Yeah. Obviously, as we know, Ole Miss and Georgia are going on right now. Should be a decent one. But yeah, it's gonna be a fun one. I think that I think will be worth monitoring. So back to the Broncos a little bit. I think that the reason why I think that the Kansas City game, it won't be looked at it as such. I don't think, just because of the measures of it, because they were playing a backup quarterback, and the measures of the fact that it was more than likely a game they should have won. But given the gravity of what happened the week or the game before, you also had a short week. Like, you came off a pretty rough loss against Jacksonville, who beat you at home, and you turn around quickly to go play on Thursday night in Arrowhead, which, still for Arrowhead's sake, they still had a decent defense for some of the players that were out. They were being led by Steve Spagnuolo. So I think, relatively speaking, that was a very impressive performance. Well, I shouldn't say very impressive, but that was an impressive win, given the Broncos were able to take that loss from Jacksonville, put it in the trash can, move over to Thursday, win that game, and then put themselves in, as we all know now, the driver's seat and winners of the AFC West.
Yeah, I like everything's right in front of them. So like being in the driver's seat is the best case scenario, because I think the other games I'm about to talk about, like it will suck right now to be like in a position of like the Panthers and the Bucks, right? Saturday game. I don't know. Like there could be a
Pittsburgh and
chance.
Baltimore.
Yeah, like there could be a chance in that Saturday game where the Panthers lose and like, or no, the Bucks win and they still might not even get in, because for some reason they have to check on the Saints, like Saints Falcons game, because that has an impact on the game. So like the fact that the Broncos can control, their own destiny, being the driver's seat, is the best feeling right now, because we've been in situations where we need other things to happen, but just glad right now that they're in the driver's seat.
Yeah. So specifically to that Chiefs game, obviously, yes, there's that rant right after the game from Jonathan Cooper.
He went off.
He kind of went off a little bit. The one thing I will say about it is we at least know where he lies. And that is the state of how he feels about the Kansas City Chiefs. Should have been on a public platform? Maybe not. But because there was certainly a tweet that ended up getting deleted. But I think that's probably, like, if we're gonna go off of like the part that I thought was frustrating a little bit at times, and it isn't really just that game, but like the last couple weeks, the defense itself has kind of taken a step back, right? Like the defense has kind of taken a step back. They're playing okay and certainly better, since that Packers game by just a smidge, but they are still kind of taking a bit of that step back. And when you aren't turning the ball over or creating turnovers, and you're not rushing the passer a little bit more on a regular clip, it's been a bit frustrating, right? But I think that, and I have to give credit where credit is due on this, because and we have that Slack chat that we do where we talk with a bunch of the Broncos people, and to give credit where credit is due, Stephen Chris made the point that made me kind of think about this, and that is, I wonder if the Broncos are doing a bit of a snap count when it comes to some of these players like Jonathan Cooper, Nick Bonito. Obviously, we know that is the thing for Zach Allen, that he's been a bit of a snap count. So maybe that's kind of messing a little bit with the timing a little bit as far as some of these players, Jordan. But we also know that whenever Jonathan Cooper and Nick Bonito are on the field, they played at such a high level, a high relentless level. The sacks certainly aren't getting there at times, but at least on the season, the pressures are always there. So I think what we're kind of seeing is a bit of teams changing up a little bit, where they're doing some chipping on both sides, knowing the fact that Benito is going to come from the other, Cooper is going to be coming from that other side. So they're just chipping either side, and in doing so, it's slowing their momentum just a little bit. Yeah,
I think we've seen Benito and Cooper not on a snap count, but their snaps have been more limited than last year. Sean Payne has talked about how, especially Zach Allen too, like they played a lot of snaps last year, and they want them to be more fresh week in and week out. I wonder these last two games if their snaps have been more limited than usual throughout the whole season. I would like to compare and contrast that. But even like when we are subbing in and out those guys, we still have guys like Jonah Ellis, DeAndre Tillman, who has been improving each and every week, it seems like. And then guys like Akoi Robinson coming in, and I don't know if it was the Chiefs game or the game before, where he had a crucial sack and a pass deflection.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was the Chiefs game if I'm remembering correctly. But seeing those guys not produce and just giving more of a break for a guy like Cooper and Benito. I know a lot of has been made up of not only Cooper, like we just mentioned by Kodiak, but also Benito not getting home as of late and stuff like that. I think that their time is coming. They can't be that quiet for that long. I do know that we saw Benito with a arm brace
Yeah.
pregame against the Chiefs.
And that's been a thing, right? Like that's been a thing, right? The like last couple weeks, because like he mentioned, what was it after? What game was it where they had that win and they finished and he goes, "Oh, I had a club on my hand," and no one knew about it, right? Like, and I had a club on my hand. I forget what.
The Commanders game.
Yeah, that's what it was. But yeah, I think that maybe like at that point, but yeah, yeah, it does maybe make you wonder. And yeah, who knows? Maybe there is a bit of some truth to it. I mean, I mean, we've seen sometimes, where video games might take a little bit too much of a priority. Paxton Lynch, and then right, and then Kyler Murray spending a little bit too much time in Call of Duty that he decides not to be a franchise quarterback anymore. So yeah, no, we've seen it at least a fair amount. So maybe that is some valid stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's something to monitor. But to your point, like we at least have shown the depth of that with the pass rush. That maybe it's afforded them that maybe they are in a snap count, if you will, but it's at least going to afford them come playoff time. Maybe we see them be unleashed just a little bit more regularly. And because of that, they might be a little bit more fresh. Their body is going to be a little bit more fresh. So that, when that happens, you'll see a little bit more relentless, pass rush from both of those guys like Cooper. And frankly, it's not just that it benefits Benito and Cooper. That time of snap count and limit, if you will, also helps guys like Jonah Ellis and Dondrea Tillman, and specifically Q Robinson too at times, because specifically with how often they were using Q, or how less they were using Q, he's already got the fresh legs anyway. So that's gonna be a big deal. On the other side of this, I think the secondary is still pretty solid. It's just you're kind of entering a point, I should say secondary and linebacker play, you're kind of entering a bit of a more super frustrating point at this point. Like if you're maybe pinpoint maybe the number one problem that's kind of, been frustrating a lot of Bronco fans of late, is that the secondary cornerback room, one person in particular has taken a bit of a step back, but like taking a step back from the standpoint of there's just too many miscommunications happening right now at the back end of that, defense right now.
I agree. The Broncos defense right now, I think it's more of a secondary and second level type problem than it is a defensive line problem. Because I think the defensive line is still getting pressure. They're still doing their best to get to the quarterback. Right now, there's just too many, like how you said, there's too many miscommunications, too many lack of discipline type plays as well. I hope that come playoff time, like even starting on Sunday against the Chargers, they start bouncing back. Because if we get this defense that we've been seeing the last few weeks heading into the playoffs, all the haters that have been saying that this team might be a one and done, that might come into fruition, because this defense does need to show up in the biggest moments. Because I know this may shock a lot of people because people don't watch the Broncos, but the last few weeks, the offense has been winning the games for the Broncos. It has not been the defense. The defense has been playing very poorly, and I think I'm putting that nicely, because we know what they can do, and we've seen their best ball. But right now, they are playing their worst right now, and that needs to change a bit. I know we've seen a lot of players on the defensive side of the ball take accountability in their media sessions, but it starts on Sunday. I understand. I know we're going to get into it now that we're not playing the majority of the starters for the Chargers. But it's still a get right game, and you need to you need to start peaking now, heading into the playoffs. And I don't care if it's against backups or normal civilians. You gotta put out good tape and start feeling and start getting that confidence back and that swagger back.
Yeah, and and I think that for the Broncos' sake, obviously to preview a little bit when it comes to that the Chargers game, how I'm looking at this is because of what happened in the early part of this season with the Broncos and Chargers, how devastating that loss was for specifically the Broncos offense and the missed opportunities, even though they put up as many points as they did. Bo is obviously on, even you could see it on video where he even said, I had a lot of missed opportunities today, right? And then ever since that point, he's really made it a priority to make sure he was hitting every single opportunity that was coming his way. But specifically, it was another game-winning field goal that was lost. And I have to think, I have to think that take the number one seed out of this. I have to think that last game of the season against the Chargers is going to weigh really heavily on the Broncos' minds because of that game that they had at the early part of this season. So I think they're going to be coming a little bit more prepared. And the other layer to this, Jordan, that I want to bring back to is because they had that game against Kansas City, which is arguably going to be a carbon copy of what they could potentially get against the Chargers, facing obviously a backup quarterback and everything, and also a run-heavy offense, if you will. The team's got to be a bit prepared. And I think that because they had that game last week on that Thursday night, should also better prepare them for what's going to be coming on that Friday game or the Sunday game when they hopefully clinch that number one seed.
Yeah, again, we got to start peaking at this time, and I hope it's not just and I know they're not going to treat it as just the last game, but this will be, hopefully, because I am accounting that we are winning this game. This will be the last time we see them until the divisional round, not just the wild card round, wild card, the divisional round. Like, that's the next time we'll see them. So again, I think that 1 week break is going to be beneficial for some of the guys and just recovering some of those nagging injuries and stuff like that. But I'm hoping the defense takes this game a bit personally, just in terms of getting back on the right track and playing their best ball.
When I want to make sure we look at this from a objective point of view, because obviously, I said it is that Trey Lance is a better quarterback than Chris Olajuwon, right? Like, there's no doubt, right? Trey Lance is a better quarterback. Talent-wise, maybe with where they're at their careers, Lance is a better quarterback. I mean, he was drafted 3rd overall. Obviously, the career didn't exactly pan out, the way that he would hoped if you're Trey Lance. The Broncos do have to be a little bit careful here because Lance is a quarterback that, because of the talent level and specifically the Jim Harbaugh type led offense, and it's conducive to a pretty heavy running attack. And he, for the most part, I would just say Jim does a really good job of putting the quarterbacks in really advantageous situations for throws and opportunities. And so I have to think that that's going to be a pretty big point of emphasis when it comes to Greg Roman and Trey Lance and specifically Harbaugh in the room. And I would argue, this is why I'm a bit semi-cautious about this game. Justin Herbert is when he is on, like we haven't really seen, he's obviously a streaky quarterback, but when he is red hot, he's one of the best quarterbacks of the NFL. But I would just say stylistically, Trey Lance fits probably what Greg Roman has been wanting out of a quarterback, maybe even since Colin Kaepernick, right? Like, so I just think that, so the Broncos do have to be a little bit cautious there as far as what they could be seeing. And I think that's a lot of the conversation, right, Jordan, that we heard this week, which was about caging that quarterback in because of what they'll be seeing with Trey Lance.
And why can't Trey Lance have a Malik Willis type night? We've seen Malik Willis for the Packers, backup quarterback. Again, not this very same situation, but both of them are former first-round picks. Really haven't made their mark in the league yet. The majority of people have called both quarterbacks busts. Why can't Trey Lance have that type of a game that Malik Willis had? I mean, he is a first-rounder for a reason. There was a lot of people high on Trey Lance for a reason. So it's not like we are playing your average backup quarterback. We're at the end of the day, we're facing a first-round quarterback. And again, like how you said, Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh are going to put him in advantageous situations to the point where, he's going to have some plays that, he looks good and he's going to succeed. That's why it's even more of a factor for this defense to show up, because the last thing you need going into the bye week, or whether it's the wild card, and I hope that's not the case, but the last thing you need is a bad taste in your mouth where it's back-to-back weeks where you face a backup quarterback and you fail expectations again.
By the way, you said Willis was a first-round pick. He was a third-round pick.
Malik Willis?
Yeah.
Oh, I could have sworn it was, or no, maybe he was getting touted as a first-round pick.
He was definitely touted.
That my bad on that.
Yeah. Let's talk about timing. Christoph mentioned it at like the exact same time.
Yeah. I remember him getting touted as a first-round pick, though. That's why I think
definitely. That was the year where I think that was like one of the first years where you and I were interacting, but it was just like I was a huge fan of Carson Strong that year.
That's right.
Malik Willis. I was a huge fan of him. Was kind of up and down when it came to Will Levis. It was also the Matt Corral year. Yeah. So,
wow, what a year!
Was that also the year that Brock Purdy ended up being drafted as the Mr. Irrelevant in that class?
May have been. I don't know. Let me check that.
But no, yeah. So it's kind of wild. Because Kenny Pickett was the only. You're right. Because they were supposed to be like projected mini quarterbacks that went in the first, and it was only Kenny Pickett that went in the first round.
Man, that was that 2022 draft class.
Yeah.
Man, oh man.
Yep. And then fast forward 2 years later, we have maybe one of the best QB classes that we will ever see.
Yep.
So from the offensive side of things, I think it's really easy to continue the theme of what we've been talking about. What is it? The last, really handful of weeks post bye week, Jordan. Yeah, right. He was projected top.
That's what was in my head. I could have sworn he was I could have sworn he was a first round pick.
But man, I will say the quick back tangent, if you will, to Willis. One of my favorite videos of Willis was when he was at the NFL Combine and he gave that money to the homeless guy.
Yeah.
That's actually one of my favorite Combine moments, frankly, of all time. Because truly, when you are under the spotlight like by that much, and you do that, you should be bona fide first round pick at that point, because you are selling yourself as like, everything that you basically are as a person and as a player. So go to the Broncos offense, Jordan. It is basically this theme that we've been seeing post bye week, and I would just say a lot of that is I would say the biggest credit for Sean Payton and Bo Nix, and specifically the coaching staff, of really working through where this offense has come from an identity standpoint. And this is where I specifically kind of go a little bit more so to Sean, because it's Sean really trusting the fact that everything that I would just say that like we were at least seeing glimpses of last year, which was, this is this Drew Brees clone, of who Bo Nix is. And don't get me wrong, there was at the time, for what we were seeing as a prospect, there were a lot of shades of that when you would watch him. Well, now you are seeing the ultimate blend of him as an Auburn quarterback and him as an Oregon quarterback, to where he could be able to play in structure and out of structure, and that's a first. That is a legitimate first for Sean Payton. But I have to kind of call back a little bit, because Sean Payton wanted to draft Patrick Mahomes in 2017, and funny enough, he ended up with the best draft of his life in 2017. It was like 2017 or 2018 or whatever. But like he wanted to draft him, and then ironically enough, Mahomes becomes one of the best quarterbacks of all time, because he could play in structure and out of structure and make plays off script, and and everything else. So I think this is legitimately a first for him, because like he has this quarterback that he can be able to do a lot of different things with, in structure and out of structure. And then he's building this team still roughly the way he wants to, with guys like RJ Harvey being out of the backfield, and then finding some of these guys open, Marvin Mims a little bit more on hole shots, Sutton doing a pretty decent job as far as finding his soft zones and stuff. So I give a lot of credit to Sean Payton on this, Jordan. I know you are really critical of him. Was about like 5 weeks ago or something, just as far as some of the game planning. But I will say the archaicness that some people have been spouting off has really been put to bed, I would just say, the last 4 weeks or so.
Yeah, and I never had like a doubt where he can't get things fixed and stuff like that. And I've always been a big fan of his due to his relationship and him coming from the Bill Parcells tree and all of that. Like, I'll never doubt his ability to build a program and that culture, because I mean, quite frankly, look what he's done in Denver. It was just a few weeks where I think a lot of people were frustrated with some of the things that have been happening on offense, but it really seemed like that bye week and that mini bye was much needed, not for just the players but the coaching staff. Like, I don't think Sean Payne lied to us when he said the Broncos were the only team in the history to play a certain amount of games in a certain amount of days when we had that time span. Because remember, we did not take that bye week after that London trip. So we kind of grinded that thing out, and I think a lot of people were mentally exhausted. And I think some of the coaching staff were mentally exhausted as well. It takes a toll on you. So I think once
you mentioned that too.
And I think once they got out of that bye week, I think you saw a different team in terms of offensively, and then a different mindset from Sean as well. I think everything was operating better. The plays were getting in quicker, which something Tony Romo, even Troy Aikman called out when they were doing Broncos games and commentating on Broncos games. But yeah, I mean, in terms of just Sean Payne and the offensively, I mean, it's been improving week in and week out. His relationship with Bo has been tremendous, and he talks about it every single time he can. And
frankly, at this point, everything that the Bronco fans have been wanting in terms of Sean Payton lasting his entire career in Denver is coming to fruition, because the conversations that have been having the last 2 weeks, you're starting to kind of see come a little bit more public, which is, it's a foregone conclusion that Sean's going to be with Bo his entire career, and also probably more than likely he will be the Broncos head coach for his entire career and then retire. The question is just going to be, does he retire, and he has a house near Peyton Manning? That's the real question, at that point. But I think that, and obviously I will say this, you specifically have been really, really, really critical of the wide receivers, and I'm torn, because the way I see it, Jordan, is they really do play like they take on the appearance of their quarterback, and also they take on the appearance probably of the head coach too. But I just say it's mostly of who the quarterback is too, like, because he's so streaky. But the drops are a little bit of a huge problem. And I will just say, to be honest, like there were some Sutton drops from like the beginning portion of the year, to like right around the bye week, but not as frequent as we were seeing from the bye week till now. And that is a bit concerning, right? Like, because Sutton is a pretty sure-handed wide receiver. And obviously Franklin has kind of dealt with his drops for the majority of the season, but also he's a bit highs and lows, and Sutton has given us highs and lows, but he's clearly the wide receiver one of this team right now. But Pat Bryant kind of went down. He was really surging there. Pat Bryant was. And you're starting to see a little bit more Marvin Mims be used a little bit. Obviously, there's plays that they like to use him with, which is extensions of the running game, which is another facet of this offense that I really like a lot now, the way that they're using this. But I just got to say, though, like it has definitely been a little bit frustrating the last couple of weeks of seeing the amount of drops from this team.
I mean, it almost costed the Broncos the game in Kansas City.
It was, or the best way to say this, Jordan, is actually, I would just say it was the difference between a 2-score game or more.
Yep, 100%.
Versus what we saw.
100%. I agree with you 100% because it got to the point like at the end of the first half, I went to take my dogs on a walk because I couldn't believe what I was watching. And I even called my brother. I'm like, we're dropping touchdowns. Like, we're dropping first downs. And he was like, oh, I'm not watching the game, but, Twitter's telling me that Bo's not playing a good game. And I said, that's the problem. Like, these people say it's Bo. Yet, if you literally just watch the game, Courtland Sutton drops a touchdown. I forgot who else dropped, but it was just so many people just dropping passes. And it wasn't just one person like Sutton. It was everybody. And I don't know what, but Ingram has a case of the drops as well, which I'm very surprised by. And it comes back to my thought of, and I know you've said it as well, I believe Marvin Mims is very sure-handed as well. Like, I think he has good hands. And you can make the argument that he has some of the best hands on the team.
He and Pat Bryant.
So, is Sean safe? Because maybe this is me just coping and maybe having hope that we can use him in the playoffs. But is Sean waiting for the playoffs to utilize Marvin Mims and this offense?
Or even Evan Ingram more.
Yeah. Is he waiting for the playoffs for that to happen?
I would be. Well, here's the thing. There's two ways to look at it. I would be annoyed just because we were at the point, if you will. Obviously, it seems like the Chargers more often than not are going to be sitting not just Herbert, but some of their starters. And so it should be an opportunity for the Broncos to win that game. But we were at that point, like in the last tail end of the season, where it's like, if you wanted to show it now, right? Like as you're pushing forward to so. But on one hand, if it also helps lead them, because it's something that not really people had seen, like, and it's something you see in the playoffs, and it is very effective. Well, then it's going to be one of those things like, okay. Maybe Sean had a point, because it goes back to our point, right? Like it goes back to the point of, obviously Sean hasn't said, I am holding out Ingram, I am holding out Marvin Mims, I'm holding out some of these other plays for the playoffs. He hasn't really said that, but it would definitely fall in line of the idea of like, here is one time again, Sean Payton has been proven right, in that sense. So,
I mean, I'm hoping, because I still very much believe that Evan Ingram is the missing piece for this offense, because we've seen when he has the ball in his hands in good positions, what he can do with the ball in his hands is just that's probably one of the more frustrating parts with this offense, is it really doesn't feature your most dynamic guys play in and play out. The ball is going to get spread out. It's going to be distributed between everybody. And I think that has its pros and cons. And yeah, I mean, Sean Payne does love him some Adam Troutman, and that's for sure. But I really do hope when it comes to playoff time, Payne does unleash Mims and Ingram, because I think if that does happen, it truly does change the dynamic of the offense.
Ingram specifically, and I will say, and there are a few times where there are some accuracy issues, some when it comes to Bo, but funny enough, like some of the accuracy issues, it feels like when it comes to Ingram are passes where it's just on the outskirts, just a little bit, of his hands. So obviously, probably by the quintessential definition of what a drop is, might lend itself to be that's a drop. But there are some times where, they don't have to like extend their arms by quite a little bit, because like I will say one where the one specific play I think that people would like to go to is where Bo was rolling out to his right, and he threw it to Sutton. Obviously, it hit his hands, but that was quite an extension. That was quite an extension for Sutton to kind of haul that ball in. So I think if you ask Bo, and Court would say he probably would catch it, but Bo would probably say I gotta lead him just a little bit shorter on that pass so that he can start running a little bit more. So I think there's at least an opportunity or two at times in games where Bo just needs to just be just a tad bit more accurate at times on some of those plays. Like the Marvin Mims play before the interception, which, by the way, the interception was not on Bo. It was more so a great play by the defender. But like on a play like that with Marvin, right? Like the idea was certainly probably to throw back shoulder because of maybe where the defender was at that point in time. But just kind of maybe get it a little bit more to his right side, right? To get it a little bit more to his right side on the back shoulder. He probably has him. For an opportunity there.
Yep.
But I mean, it's and obviously we led off with because Colin mentioned the running game. There's the other area of this where the to bring back the running game though, Jordan, that's been just pretty impressive. Really, it has been the running game the last couple of weeks, and when we talk about unlocking things for the playoffs, there is probably one thing that the Broncos, frankly, should do in terms of unlocking things when it comes to the running game. Obviously, we talk about unlocking Marvin Mims, and we talk about unlocking Evan Ingram, but there is one thing that is paramount, Jordan, for them to unlock when it comes to the running game, and it's something you and I have talked about for multiple weeks. Bo Nix is not Drew Brees anymore. He is not Drew Brees anymore. He has got to be a top 5, top 10 athlete right now when it comes to the quarterback position in the National Football League. Like when it comes to his mobility, the way that he can use that run that he had, which ended up being a designed run in the game against the Kansas City Chiefs, is just one more opportunity again where you really see his athleticism and his intelligence really come into play for how he can move around the pocket and really create opportunities for himself. He's undoubtedly a very elite quarterback when it comes to those kind of plays.
Again, I think I'm hoping
I know
playoff time is just it's funny because it's like these little tweaks that can happen could just change the whole dynamic of the offense. Like whether it's Ingram, whether it's Mims, and then it's Bo Nix's legs, right? It's like it changes the whole viewpoint, like how defenses view the Broncos offense and how you have to defend them. Because we've seen multiple times throughout the season where he steps in the pocket or he escapes the pocket, and then instead of the corner staying with the receiver, they're coming down to come get Bo, and Bo using his legs gets that receiver open and hits him right down the sideline or whatever. So the defensive coordinators, like everybody knows on the other sideline that Bo is a real threat with his legs. I just wish we used that a little bit more to our advantage, to the point where it can be more of a thing. Because again, he is not a Lamar Jackson type runner or a Josh Allen type powerful runner, but he can have a similar impact
Yeah.
that those guys can have in the running game.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and he's on the best way to say this is that he's a pass first player,
yes.
right? Like he is a pass first player. And you say so often, if you're having a conversation with a defensive coordinator, one of the first things they will ever tell you is, is that like a mobile quarterback, a dual threat quarterback, is one of the worst things to ever defend for you because the amount that you have to basically control as a defense and the responsibility and the discipline that you have to have is extra, because like the linebackers have to maintain two different responsibilities of not just the tight end or running back that is going to be running possible angle routes or coming across from you, but you also have a quarterback that's going to probably be scrambling if that opportunity is not open. And I think a great example of this, to what you were describing earlier, is the play. I forget the game.
Texans?
Might have been the Packers game where it was the Bandy touchdown, where Bo was running.
Yes.
Where Bo was running, and that defensive back or linebacker really has to like maintain its responsibility because of where Bo is, but also wearing, like with where that wide receiver is coming. And it was that really good mesh call, and he hits Bandy, right?
Yep.
Like he hits Bandy, and then Bandy's wide open because of that discipline that you have to keep on Bo. And so because of that, it makes it so difficult when you're a defensive coordinator or defense in general.
And also, as a defensive coordinator, you're hesitant to play man coverage, because if you are playing man coverage, if you don't have a spy out there and you're facing against a dual threat guy, that guy could take off and pick up chunks, right? And then if you are playing man coverage and you have a spy out there, maybe you have one safety deep and that's it. Maybe it's not a too high safety deep look. A lot of variables come into that part where you're facing a dual threat guy. You're hesitant to cover. You're hesitant to call man coverage type defenses because of the factors that go into it. So it's a lot of planning going into games like that. And listen, Bill, right now, I know you said top 10. I would even put him in top 5 conversation in terms of
being respectful. Yeah, I was being respectful. I think he's top 5 because because he is, because the part that I think is so funny to me, and this is about bringing the Bo Nix conversation, if you will, just a little bit, and it's one that always, I guess, has to be said because of the first 2 seasons, but it's like the comparisons that have been made and archetypes that have been made for him. A lot of that was obviously our fault too, because of where he was and where he is now. But it goes to show you how he has been misunderstood. And I think it's so funny because, don't get me wrong, the Drake May conversation, this is where I think it's actually very funny, because 2 of the most misunderstood quarterbacks out of that entire draft class, at least at this point, one is probably going to end up being the MVP, at least at this point, in Drake May. But misunderstood in the standpoint of like, there were some evaluations, and I say that like some evaluations from people that were either low on him, high on him, middle on him, right? Like, and that was the exact same thing for Bo. Bo specifically was one, if you want to talk about a guy who was really misunderstood. Yeah. And so the fact that we are seeing something with him where, oh, he's a Drew Brees clone, to Steve Spagnuolo, a guy who faces him more than anybody, starts bringing up Josh Allen archetypes and comparisons, I think is absolutely wild, because it goes to show you that we have gone from the Drew Brees, Brock Purdy archetype to Josh Allen, possibly Jalen Hurts at times, to maybe even an early on Dak Prescott with his mobility. So it's just like, it goes to show you how wild things have transpired in just a very short amount of time. And it goes to show you how, once again, the trajectory of where things are headed for Bo is on a trajectory that is the Broncos. They don't just have a top 12 quarterback now. They have possibly a top 5 quarterback if the trajectory is starting to serve pretty well.
And I just searched this up right now. Out of the quarterback position this year, do you want to guess who number 1 and number 2 is for rushes of 20 plus miles per hour this season?
So obviously it's because of with what we're talking about. Bo would be 1. I don't know if he would be 1, but he's up there.
He is one of the 2.
He's one of the 2. Lamar?
Caleb Williams.
Okay.
Again, that draft class. But again, I think it goes back to what we were talking about, right? Like the fact that, and by the way, the only other quarterbacks that have rushes of 20 plus mile per hour in terms of quarterbacks, it's Caleb 1. He has 5 of them. Bo has 2 of them. And then it's Herbert with 1, Justin Fields with 1. He's pretty fast. And then Drake May with 1. The rest have 0.
We were talking about we'll finish up with the little bit more of the conversation about the Chargers and talk a little bit about the game a little bit more here, and then we'll wrap up the show. But another reason why I feel like looking at, and this is just from the offensive perspective and also the Bo Nix side of things, we said in terms of like with them sitting players or maybe even players that are injured that were out in that Thursday game when it came to the Kansas City Chiefs, Steve Spagnuolo is still a pretty elite defensive coordinator, right? Like he's an elite defensive mind. But I think that when you look at that game, and Spags has faced him, squared off with him more than anyone, when it comes to as far as divisional play. Bo has owned him his entire career, but I think the part that it was so impressive was they're trying their hardest to really eliminate the big play, when it comes to the Broncos offense, and that has affected Bo a little bit too as far as going a little bit down the field. Well, in doing so, Bo was so surgical enough because you were able to have wide receivers and players, tight ends, whatever, be in the soft spot of his own and being really effective enough to move the chains. So that dink and dunk offense, or move the chains offense, if you will, became a very deadly offense because Bo was surgical. He was moving the chains, doing things with his legs, to where the big play of the games were his legs, right? Like the big play of the game were when he was using it. So that's where I think that when we kind of like tie a knot in the whole Bo Nix conversation, why he is such if there is any quarterback, and maybe this is a bit of a biased answer, but if there is any quarterback that I am probably buying stock in, probably aside from maybe Drake May and maybe Bo Nix at this point, like Bo is probably the quarterback I am buying a lot of stock in right now because his trajectory really is at a point where it is really high. Because and again, like we mentioned it in the offseason when it came out, the NFL players, the top 100 is not something you want to write home about, but it is certainly something when you are voted on by your peers. And at that point, when Bo was voted, he was voted theoretically as a top 12 quarterback, right? Like by his peers and by his players. What is it going to end up being now? What is it going to end up being now when it comes to this year? Is it going to still be at that 64, or is it going to end up being, somewhere in the 40s? If it's somewhere in the 40s, that's top 8, quarterback territory. So it's just a very comforting feeling knowing the fact that Broncos, they have found their franchise quarterback.
Yeah, I think it's funny because it seems like after every game, like there's a post on like, yeah, Bo Nix is our franchise guy. I think that's been, at least to me, I don't know about you, Cam, but I made that determination a long time ago. Like
last year.
yeah, like I'm past that conversation. Like
Yeah.
I didn't know that was still a thing right now. Like,
No, right.
like after he makes a
good
play.
Well, I was gonna say kudos to you, right? To the people that are like, hey, Bo Nix is actually a franchise. Kudos to you for finally realizing that. But oh, by the way, we've been on that trade for what, since last year? Like,
yeah, like you could have named a game like, okay, maybe after like that Chiefs game on the road where he made that crucial first down play, like
right.
everybody was like, okay,
Bengals game.
We had that quarterback. For me, it was the Bengals game where
he
made throws, and I was like, oh shit, like we have a clutch guy.
Well, and I would even just say, no, opponent wise, it doesn't really fit it. But the Browns game on Monday night, like there's games where it's just like that are going to call for a shootout, right? Yep. And if there is anything that you could just say is a franchise quarterback for Bo, it's all the fourth quarter cutbacks. That's a big one. And oh, by the way, the Jordan Love Green Bay Packers matchup where, no, it didn't go their way when they were playing the Jaguars, but you had the game prior to that where it's almost the exact same type of scenario of, almost same type of, defense that you're playing in terms of heavy on creating turnovers, heavy on getting to the pass rush or getting to the quarterback. So they were the top 5 defense, and Bo shredded them. He shredded them.
Even for if opponents are not affected, like the Falcons game that I went to last year,
we get it right.
I mean, like broke NFL records, right? And even if you didn't believe last year and you still wanted to wait for another year, again, like how you said, Cam, all these fourth quarter comebacks. Yeah. I mean, if that doesn't show you, then I don't know what else is going to show you, brother.
if there is one game specifically that I would just pinpoint if you want to talk about this year, is the Giants fourth quarter specifically. Just go to that game. Go to that game, and you'll know why we're talking about Bo as being a top 5 quarterback potentially. So
I would even point. I mean, we could talk about this all night, but even the Colts game where we lost, there's another game that I was at, but it's more of a shootout type of game, right? Where people think, oh, Bo can't get in a shootout type of game, even though he's proven that last year. And he has a throw down the sideline, cross body to Troy Franklin, who was like 50 yards, and he puts it right on the money. So it's like, guys, and by the way, he had 3 touchdowns in the first half. So it's like, he's proven it against multiple opponents, bad defenses, good defenses, average defenses, against really high octane offenses where you have to get into a shootout. And it's very bad. Like, he's shown it all.
Go back to the Chargers game a little bit. I do suspect that the Chargers will sit a little bit more players. We did get word, right? Like, as we said, we were talking about Trey Lance earlier, that they are going to probably be sitting Justin. Who on your radar are you kind of suspecting the Chargers will sit?
I'm curious on the snap. I'm curious to see what they do with Amari Hampton.
That's the one for me.
Just because he's been back for 2-3 games now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you want to put him in he hasn't been on the injury report, which in terms of the Chargers' sake, it's a good thing. But again, he is coming back from an injury. Do you want to give him more than 50% of the snaps in a game where where you're going to be seated at? It really doesn't change the fact of where you're going, unless they really care. But if they did, they would play Justin Herbert. Amari Hampton would be the one for me. Oh, again, I am looking at it. He is on the injury report. Did not practice Wednesday, did not practice today.
Well,
so he is looking like he's going to be held out as well. So, I mean, that's the one for me, though.
There's a couple. Derwin James. During James did not practice yesterday. Obviously, Khalil Mack had his what a disgusting arm injury that he had.
Khalil Mack and Derwin James, DNP yesterday, but limited today.
Yeah.
Do they really want to put them in this game?
Yeah. So, and I will just say this. I brought it up on the 5280 pod, but like, would it have been great to beat the Chargers at full strength, if you will? Yes, it would have been great. But from a pure health side of things and taking the entire bias out of this when it comes to obviously me being a Bronco fan, but looking at it from the standpoint of the Chargers and Herbert's health and just simply resting players, good on the Chargers, specifically good on Herbert. Good on Harbaugh for realizing that, you know what, we really need to rest our quarterback. Yeah, there's a bit of some change between the 5th seed and the 7th seed of potentially what we could be getting. But what is the most paramount of where we're at as a team is, number one, the health of Justin Herbert. And so resting him, resting that hand, getting him right, for the playoffs is number one when it comes to the Chargers specifically. Because couple things. One, playing the Houston Broncos defense, and then the Broncos defense right on top of that is a death wish for a quarterback. That's a death wish. And then two, there was already an instance that happened with the Chargers, for an example, for them to sit their starters. And it happened in the Russell Wilson year of 2022, where Brandon Staley should have sat Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Derwin James, and frankly, if I'm not mistaken, Justin Herbert too in that game. And in that game, Mike Williams was carted off with an injury, and there was another brutal injury that happened in that game that the Chargers had at Mile High. And the Broncos ended up beating them at full strength in a meaningless game. It was a fun game to certainly be at. But that was a game that I really do think that like is probably one that was maybe the most weighing on their minds. But I have to think that Derwin is definitely one of them that I'm thinking of. Obviously, Justin Herbert is sitting. But I'm with you. Hampton is the one, as far as the big pieces, that I'm kind of circling as far as like what is going to end up happening here. And I guess if you're looking at maybe like offensive line specifically, should that happen? I mean, the offensive line's been pretty bad anyway. But like a specific offensive lineman, maybe Mekhi Becton, because he's been banged up this year. But yeah, those are a few of the players I would just say that I'm kind of like eyeballing. But if I probably just say all of this, that like, we talked about the Trey Lance stuff, not to like, because like it's just one where I don't want to fall asleep in the sense of like, the Broncos are, competing with Trey Lance and he's performing. It's like he's a better quarterback than Chris Oladokun, right? Like he's a better quarterback than him. And yeah, the Broncos have shown the propensity to play down to their opponents, but it's also on the other side of it that the teams have played up to their level, right? When it comes to opportunities like this. But I will just say this, though. The Broncos, at least for their sake, have to play up to their standard. And if they can play up to their standard, we need a 2-score win when it comes to this game, Jordan. And so much so that we need a 2-score game for this, and we need to see some players come into the game so that they can rest their players a little bit more. That's probably one of the biggest things for this. So I don't know if it's going to happen, just because like everything we've seen in this year, that's been a bit of a change this year, is whenever they played these lesser opponents, they've blown them out of the water. And this year it's been a little bit tight and a little bit close. So I don't know what I will be expecting here in this Chargers game. I do expect a win. Spoiler alert, I do expect a win. But Jordan, I don't know what I'm going to get in this game.
I'm kind of with you. Like I'm expecting a win. I'm expecting, and matter of fact, I'm expecting a 24-10 win for Denver. But even at that, like, is it going to be a 24-10 where it's 17-10 in the fourth quarter? We get a stop and then we score at the very end to make it a two-possession game, or is it 24-3 in the fourth quarter? The Chargers
38-0.
score, yeah, so I wonder how it's going to play out. I wonder what players are going to play. I wonder what players are going to be limited in terms of snaps. If the Broncos can get to a big enough lead, are they going to rest certain guys? Or like I wonder, like there's a lot of question marks surrounding this game because at the end of the day, you need to win. Got to get that one seed.
And if there is anything that I think is going to end up being massive for this Broncos team, whether they get the number one seed or not get the number one seed, is the fact that the game last week was on Thursday. That's a mini bye.
Yep.
That's a mini bye. So you're in essence going to have 2 bye weeks per se. So you already kind of had a mini bye week going into this Chargers game. And then you have, hopefully, if you can get that victory, another bye week. So the guys that are potentially coming back, getting healthy, might actually get a better opportunity and a chance to play in that, divisional game, for after that bye week. I'm very curious to see how it all unfolds. I'll probably do it. I will probably say that the Broncos will get the victory, and they will get the victory by winning. I'll just say, I'll say 27-3, 27-3, and then we'll see. We will see Stidham midway through the fourth quarter. Obviously, not necessarily, ideally, ideally, if you will, probably in the third quarter would be great. But I will make a prediction here. I think we see both quarterbacks, Trey Lance and DJ Ukulele or whatever the guy's name is.
Not the FSU one.
and we see DJ Ukulele, come into the game.
Wow.
Just for Jordan's sake, coming from Florida State and Mr. Transfer to 17 different schools in college.
Yeah.
A seasoned vet when it comes to the NIL game. So, what say you?
I got Broncos winning 24-10.
Oh, so you are going with 24-10.
I am going to stick with 24-10.
All right. But you think they pull the starters?
I think they pull Hufanga towards the fourth. I think they pull a Zach Allen, and I think they will pull a Bonito and Cooper. Like I think they'll pull those guys. I think Bo continues to play. I don't know about Court with the tight ends. I mean, it doesn't matter. It'll be interesting with the offensive line though. What they'll do with that. Because are you really going to put Bowles and McGlinchey still out there?
Oh, and we're seeing Ben Powers, right? Like we're seeing Ben Powers and Alex Blavchesky. So is it a chance where we see maybe Paul Chesky at the latter part of the game?
Yeah. That's probably my biggest concern going in.
Yeah. It's going to be – and obviously the biggest ideal one on the offensive side of the ball would be to see Bo Nix sit. Like that would be the ideal one. But no, because I think given the fact that you do see some snap usage and stuff like that when it comes to Zach Allen, maybe you start seeing a little bit more of, and specifically they've been limiting, John Franklin Myers when it comes to last week, and he's been limited all week. So, maybe we see a little bit more of Wazirike, in this kind of game, who, to his credit, really has stepped up this year, when it comes to some of that limited snaps. Yeah, all in all, I think, as we said, both of us are expecting a win. and hopefully the Broncos can get that number 1 seed, because it'll be a fun conversation knowing the fact that the Denver Broncos will have that number 1 seed, and there'll be a lot to talk about, next week. And obviously, due to the going back to regular schedules of the holiday season, we will be recording on that Wednesday next week, regular time, 7:30. Possibly, we'll still keep you in the loop whether or not we record on. We've been trying to fit Jordan's basketball schedule, but yeah, we'll keep you in the loop of when we're going to record again. But we will do a show next week. With that being said, make sure you hit the subscribe button for the MHRT Network page. As we said, we are doing a join, like a membership feature over there on YouTube. There are 3 different levels to that. There's a $2.99, a $6.99, and a $12.99 feature. Please subscribe to whatever it is that you feel like. Also, subscribe to the MHRT Network YouTube channel. Subscribe to the Mainly Broncos YouTube channel. And as we said, there's probably a little bit more popularity when it comes to the short form and stuff like that. Short form is king, by the way. But our podcast is certainly on there, that you can go watch at any point in time as well. So if you missed it over there on the MHRT Network, you can go check it out over there on the Mainly Broncos YouTube channel. And of course as well, the boys over there on social, over there on the Twitter wire. You can find the stream over there on Jordan T. Lopez's handle. You can follow it over on my handle, like Cameron Parker PO. You can follow it at Brandon's handle as well, at Brandon Miller PO. So thank you guys again for hopping on the show. We will see you guys next week for the chance that the Broncos will be the number 1 seed in the AFC.
Let's go Broncos! God bless Bo Nix!
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Simcoe's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flight map.